the web is really a great swirling conversation. It's a convergence of you know, reading and hearing and talking, and it's not just reading. And so sites like the Huffington Post, so long as, and I'm not speaking specifically about the Huffington Post per se, but sites like them.
So they're sitting right there.
Well, so long as, well, because there are a lot of aggregators in the world, Andrew. It's not, Huffington Post isn't the only one, and so, you know, there are, you know, laws around fair use, and obviously to the extent that our content, you know, you know, the efficacy and the copyrights that we own are respected, then the linking of one article to another, or one website to another, I think is endemic in the web itself. And so if we were to wall ourselves off from that, we could do that. A lot of people are now talking about doing that because they're frustrated with respect to their business models. But I think the only result that happens when you do that, in fact, as I tried to say during my talk, this isn't so much about social or not social, it's about closed versus open. I think we've been on a path toward ever-increasing openness over the last decade. And that really is about opening oneself up to the web. So now, obviously, if you get into a situation where the business models simply don't emerge over time, and you know, you talk about disruptions. I mean, obviously, one of the most important disruptions is the idea that Eric raised before about, you know, declining CPMs. Someone else raised in a different panel the issues about brand advertising moving over, and I think the great question at the outset was why does a media brand matter when you can look past the brand right at the audience? All of these questions have to do with disruption. But putting all of that aside, you know, I think we've benefited greatly by having an open attitude, and we are by far the largest newspaper website in the world now, with great influence, both journalistically and financially. And so, who can argue with that? I think, you know, just listening to Eric for a moment, it strikes me that I should also mention that the New York Times Company also owns About.com, which is a very different kind of content business. And because of the way it creates content, because of the expense structure under the business, as well as the kind of content it creates, it actually can earn unbelievable margins from AdSense. So the reason I mentioned AdSense in the context of a buzz is because if you can create content at very low cost that's highly verticalized and very contextual, AdSense will monetize all day long. You'll get very rich, very rich. And so that's a big difference in between that and creating, the great content that we obviously created in the New York Times. I mean, we write an article about, the reform movement in Iran, and AdSense doesn't know what to do with that. They can't monetize it. Ad networks can't monetize it. We have to monetize it directly through our own sales force. So I really think that, as we talk about these models, we recognize that there are models that are friendlier to web endemic advertising and models that are less friendly, just from a monetization point.